Greetings and welcome to another episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. I'm Dr. Erin McKinley, and today we don't have another spotlight session with a program. So in lieu of that, I decided to put together a best of episode. So this episode will consist of clips from various programs that have been on previous episodes of the podcast, answering one of my favorite questions to ask: what is one or more things that an applicant may do that would be complete deal breakers for program directors? And I really thought a lot of these answers weren't just applicable to their own programs, but applicable in general, and are really good advice for applicants for future dietetic internships and supervised practice programs. So check it out. It's a short episode, but I think you'll like it. And if you do, leave us a comment and we'll create some more best of episodes. Enjoy.
We can go back to the personal statement, and if it's written in a professional manner, and if we have a bunch of typos on there, if there's a lot of grammatical mistakes, that's a big red flag to me that you couldn't take the time to edit your personal statement before you turned in your application. And not necessarily would be a deal breaker, but it definitely would be a red flag for me. Another one might be if you have some references that don't necessarily portray you in the best light. We have had applicants before that the references might even just say, I do not recommend, or they kind of skirt the issue and yeah, I'll recommend them, but maybe I'm not their biggest fan. So make sure you get references of people that are gonna, paint you in a positive light.
I would have to agree with that. And while it's not a deal breaker, we do require a video interview, and the questions are on our website for you to do the video. It's a pre-recorded thing that you email to me. I do not like background music, so it's distracting. Most of the time when students play it on their videos, you can't hear what they're saying. So and keep in mind where you are when you're doing your video, what's hanging behind you or on the wall, or pay attention to those kinds of things too. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have the white wall. I mean, I've had videos where a student was outside under a tree. I mean, it's fun, it's great, whatever you want. Just make sure there's not a lot of wind blowing, that we could hear you in your video. So that's just something to keep in mind.
A decade or so ago, and by the way, this student who I did not select did get selected and is a wonderful dietitian. But one of our questions we asked, which we don't ask here, is what do you consider being late if you were going to a rotation? And what excuses would there be for being late? And her answer was like 4 hours would be late. And I thought, I think you've missed the whole day, So that was kind of, and I said, and I repeated, like, are you sure? Yeah. 4 hours, that's pretty late. I'm like, okay. And I thought, no, I mean, 10 minutes. Some people answered 5 minutes before I'm supposed to arrive would be late. I'm like, okay, I like you a lot, So I think that's a really hard one. I think that if a student does not want to abide by St. Francis's virtues or have that openness in her heart, of course, you don't always see that. We're a pretty good judge of characters, though, and I would probably just come out and ask, how do you feel about this? Before I would say absolutely no. I'm pretty confrontational if you can talk to people. If there's something that comes, I'll say, am I reading you wrong, or is this true? So I don't think anything really is a big deal breaker. I mean, we'd have to talk to them.
Yeah, as Dr. Fournet was saying that, something came to mind when not for a student, but I was previously the clinical nutrition manager at the lake, and we had an interview one time, and she looked great on paper. She check, met all the requirements. We're really excited to interview her, and she came, and I just felt that her interview, she did not fit with the mission of our organization. And like I mentioned, we strive to find students that are mission fit, to display those core values, and just something about her interview and just how she came across, I felt that she wasn't a good mission fit for us. And so I feel like if we met face to face, or if you something came through in your personal statement that would be a red flag as far as you would not be a good mission fit, then that is a deal breaker for me. I almost look at that more heavier than you meet all of the admission requirements. Dr. Fournet kind of looks at, do you meet GPA, this, and this, and I look more holistically like, are you a good mission fit? So we balance each other out well in that respect.
There are definitely can be red flags when people try to maybe embellish an experience that they haven't actually had, or not just be 100% honest about like a situation when we're asking situational questions. When interns ask us what the most important thing is, we will always say 100% of the time, you don't have to. We love academic scholars that are really bright and wonderful, but above that, we need somebody that's going to be ethical, that's going to be honest, and that we can trust. We need them to be able to do the academic coursework as well. But those things are really important in our internship. And Molly said earlier when she was talking about professionalism, I would say all of that's wrapped up together, and it's something that we really value at Southern Miss, and just kind of we stay true to that. So
I would also say I would agree with not making up your situation. We actually do some practice interviews with our interns before entering practice, and that's one thing we say: don't make up a situation, because you just can't. It doesn't come across as natural, and sometimes it gets hard to follow with follow-up questions. And then my other thing, it might just be at Southern, but a lot of times in interviews, you'll hear a question such as, when have you had a challenging interaction or a difficult relationship with maybe a coworker or a supervisor? And I would say to really think through those answers. Those are good to talk about the ways you've overcome this challenge, but can sometimes highlight some conflict that maybe could have been avoided or could have been handled better. So maybe practice those a few times or get some feedback on those types of questions as well.
We are a medical nutrition therapy focused program. And so when I say deal breaker, it's not necessarily a negative thing, but if someone has a strong interest in an area that I don't feel like we can give them those experiences, then obviously they're not a good fit for us. We want students to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. And sometimes in that situation, I realize, especially with out-of-state tuition costs and things like that, that students may say, I really just need to get into an internship, and then I'm planning to do X, Y, Z to fulfill my big career goals. I'm okay with you saying that, just to say that up front, that when you're talking about, if you want to continue on to culinary school or whatever it may be, I may not be able to give you a strong experience in that as an internship, but if you're being honest and upfront saying, hey, this is a stepping stone that we know we're a good fit and why. Don't exaggerate, and not the word lie by any means, but exaggerate. If something was required for a course and you got an experience from it, say that. It wasn't volunteer experience or it wasn't paid work experience. It was something that you were required to do for a course and you gained an experience from that. So sometimes I see that students will check, oh, I volunteered, but then you read through other things and you're like, oh no, that was really something that was required for a course. There's ways to check that in that experience, not filling out the whole application. I know sometimes I realize that the DICAS application can be a little tedious, but having all of your work experience in one place versus just saying, oh, well, I put it in my resume and I'm going to attach my resume. No, go ahead and fill out all of those sections.
Yeah, as you all know, first impressions are very crucial. And even though we're not actually meeting face-to-face typically here at Louisiana Tech for a first impression, what we see is your writing skills. We see, grammatical errors that are standing out and a typo here and there. And, this is your one shot at telling us how prepared you are, how excited you are to come to our university. And so that's just one very simple step that you can make sure before you send your application is that you have had someone come behind you and reread your statement and your application. Also, we really rely heavily on the recommendations from others, your professors. And so if there have ever been problems with a professor, if they are, if they are saying that, there's drama that surrounds you or any inclination that, they don't recommend you, of course, that's something that we rely on. So choose the people who you're asking to recommend you wisely and, make sure that it's someone that you would want to represent you.
And I'll just add to that as well, speaking of letters of recommendation, these should be letters of recommendation of someone who can attest to your academic skill or your professionalism in a work environment or a volunteer environment. Everybody's aunt thinks that they're the most wonderful niece or nephew that has ever, a personal or a family member recommendation or friend, recommendation. Those aren't the types of things that we're looking for. And also, I realize that students don't have control over what people put in recommendation letters and you don't see them. But please, when you're asking for letters of recommendation, maybe with especially with a job reference. I had a student 1 year who had applied and they worked in like a Napa, an auto parts store. Lots of transferable skills with customer service and inventory management, all of these, and the supervisor checked off that they were excellent in medical nutrition therapy, they were excellent in food service management, and there was no way in the world that this manager of Napa obviously can judge. And so let people know what it is that you want them to point out when you ask them to write a letter of recommendation for you. Maybe point out, hey, I really helped out with this inventory management, or I've been a very reliable person, or I've filled in for other people. There are lots of skills that are transferable from lots of different avenues. And so just making sure you kind of help write that story, or that you're helping them point out the things that you want them to point out. Your professors, especially this time of year, they're writing lots of letters of recommendation. It's very helpful if you can point out to them, in this class, I did this project and this was a highlight of that, and this is what I learned from that, or these are the things that I participated in or volunteered in, that you're giving them a copy of your resume and helping them write that letter and helping you shine as they write that letter.
Red flags to me, like if I'm just going to look and be very general, would be like blanks in the resume. What did you do if you took time off, like a year? What did you do during that year? If you took time off in school, what did you do? And it doesn't have to be specific. It could just be personal reason. It doesn't have to say, oh, I don't know, I went to rehab or anything crazy like that. It just, just really showing that you haven't veered off. And that's one thing. GPA is tough. I'm just trying to think. I really like strong recommendations. And so when people are going to give you a recommendation, you really want to have somebody who can really show a true recommendation, somebody who can really show strengths, but also be willing to open up on weaknesses. And that shows me that they really know you and they can really be a testament to who an intern be the intern that you can be. Some people can look really good on paper, and whenever they show up, they can be not the most ideal intern. And so I really, as a preceptor, and then now as in the education role, I see that GPA doesn't always have to be everything. You do have to be a strong student. It shows that you're resilient. You can push through and still make good grades. But showing up, asking questions, being open to taking criticism are always the most beneficial things, I think, as an intern.
I don't think that there's anything on the application that I can think of that would be a complete deal breaker. Well, I take that back. Sometimes in people's personal statement, I want you to tell me why you became a dietitian, but without giving a sob story, if that makes sense. So sometimes people can go on and on and on a little bit too much. And it's like, okay, so remember, we need to keep it professional, right? I mean, this is still a professional application. So, you know, keeping things as very professional in your personal statement. But really, it's usually more in the interview. Honestly, you know, I've had people come in dressed really inappropriately, like shockingly inappropriately. And that, you know, when in doubt, wear a pantsuit, you know, like, so high heels, you're going to be walking the distance from the entrance of the hospital to my office feels like a mile. So if I have to walk with you and you're walking like a turtle because you're in these high heels, it drives me nuts. So I would say, you know, be prepared. You have to walk at a little bit of a distance. So that needs to feel professional as well. You know, we're gonna be walking and talking, and it needs to feel easy. It shouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, this poor girl, her feet must be killing her. We're walking so slow. Like, that is just it's such a silly thing to matter, but it just shows that you hadn't really thought it through. So dressing professionally, dressing like you are coming to a business meeting, not like you are, you know, going somewhere else. So professional dress. And then in the interview, you know, we've had people, I don't know how much you want to know about this, but I've had people come in and plop their Starbucks coffee down on my desk and push their sunglasses up on their head and kick back. And it's like, oh my goodness, like, this is not appropriate. So just remembering where you are, what you're doing, that you are putting your best foot forward. You are showing me your absolute best self in that moment. If you're nervous, that is fine. Nervous, everyone's nervous in an interview. That's not something for you to be, you know, concerned about. Everyone's going to be nervous. It's more, the turnoff is when people don't act in a professional manner. It's fine to be nervous, but also remember where you are. I mean, the VP of Human Resources is in this interview. So, I mean, he's going to be in a business suit. I'm going to be in a business suit. If you come in and, you know, high heels and a mini skirt, like, eesh, not good. So when in doubt, wear a business suit and leave the Starbucks in your car.
Disorganization. So, you know, I've had people, you know, like, I make time to, and believe I have no problem making time to meet with anybody. I will take all the time I need, you know, all that. But when, you know, especially as a director, I mean, we're busy people too. So if we take time out of our day to talk to you on the phone or a Zoom meeting, and then you are completely unorganized, you have, you know, like, oh, well, let me see, you know, I want you to bullet point those questions, go right through them. Let's get through exactly what you want to know. You know, not getting your information submitted on time, or it just seems like it tracks with certain people. And you can kind of see that trend. And I'm not saying you can't make a mistake, like you got, there's been times, like, because I'm in, you guys are in Central Time, I'm in Eastern Time. There's been times we've made meetings and we're like, okay, we were in a different time zone. It happens, you know, but I'm just talking about the trend of, you know, it's apparent to me that you're disorganized. You can kind of tell that even in your personal statement when you write, like, it's all over the place. So when I start to see that trend of being unorganized, disorganized, I know that person's going to have trouble, because there is definitely some timelines, you know, involved in the internship and the master's degree, and you've got to have time management.
Some of them talk too much in great detail about personal issues and family issues, but more personal issues, and, you know, why they wanted to do this or that because, you know, of something that happened to them. In some circumstances, it's really more, you know, than you should be sharing. You know, and you're kind of afraid of, you know, some heavy psychological possibility, problems, you know, that you don't know, you know, because you don't know enough about that. But it just kind of says, oh, I wonder how this person survives some of this and how it's going to affect their learning and just how they live after going through some things. So some things medical and some personal and social and behavioral.
So not too much of a sob story.
Not too much. Okay. a little bit's okay.
kind of be the opposite of what I'm looking for in the personal statement. But but if it's someone that I can't tell that they've really had any experience in the program in dietetics, so either a lack of work or volunteer experience, or doesn't look like they've really done anything in our field, that's going to be something that will concern me.
There are things that students can do and look at our website and really know who we are. And when we speak to those students, because sometimes, we have 12, but there may be some that are like I say the bottom 6, but it's not the bottom, because all of our interns are good. But like you may have 6 that you really, really like. And then you may have 6 that you see something there, but you're not sure how they're going to react, so we might do a phone call or an interview. The thing that's interesting is you need to know about our program. If you don't know about our program, and I've had students that I have called and said, tell me why you're interested in the program, and they're reading everything off of my webpage and not telling me how they're involved or what they want to see or do. We're kind of turned off by that. We want to know why you're passionate. We want to know why you're interested in public health. And we really want to know that you've investigated us and look at our website. If you follow us on UT Health, as far as our internship, you'll see a lot of interesting things, and you'll see how our students are involved in everything. We just did an IDDSI program with our second years, and we got 700 hits on our webpage, and it was just real interesting because the combination of what the students were doing was pretty interesting. So you can see some of the stuff that we do. We do a lot of hands-on. We don't, theory is good, but if you're teaching IDDSI to your food service staff, or you need to know about it, you need to know how to do it. And so we'll practice those kinds of things. And we bring in the experts to help us, so that you are competent and know what you're doing when you go out, and if you have to meet with somebody who has dysphagia.
The number one thing would be the application, the DICAS application itself, really not being completed as thoroughly as they could. So some examples that we've kind of seen is, omitting courses that we find out about later when we look at the transcripts. Really a poorly written personal statement. I've had some, for example, that it wasn't even written to me. They were writing it to a totally different university, so they didn't even really kind of screen what they were sending to us. Sometimes the personal statement is just like a small 4 or 5 sentences. And so again, that's not really telling us a whole lot about that person. So we really want to find out, a little bit more about what they know about our program and why they want to come and be with us. Incomplete work experiences, or saying in the DICAS application to go see resume. We do not like that. You've been asked to fill it out thoroughly, and then yes, we're certainly going to take a look at your resume. If they put in more than 3 references, again, these are all examples of not following instructions, and so that's something that kind of shoots up some red flags for us. And if the courses that are MNT related, some of those critical DPT courses, if they're taking those in that final semester, and it really doesn't give us a chance to really see if they fully understand medical nutrition therapy, because they really haven't had a full class in that yet. So that's something that would kind of set up some red flags if they're really understanding dietetics and what they're getting into, because those MNT courses are really what helps to do that.
Thank you again for checking out this special episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. And thank you again to all of my directors who joined me on previous episodes to share their insight and deal breakers with us. And as always, don't forget to like this episode and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.